For our last camping trip of the 2023 season, we set out to see two Mormon pioneer historical sites, winter quarters in Omaha, Nebraska, and Martin's Cove outside of Casper, Wyoming. To get to winter quarters, we traveled through northern New Mexico, Colorado, Kansas, and finally a good share of Nebraska. To visit Martin's Cove, we followed the Oregon and Mormon Pioneer Trail along the Platte River through Nebraska and then into Wyoming. We camped at a variety of campgrounds, and along the way we were able to see and visit several national monuments and national historic sites. One of our first stops was Sand Creek National Historic Site near Eads, Colorado. In 1864, members of the 3rd Colorado Regiment, led by Colonel John Shivington, attacked a village of Cheyenne and Arapaho and killed over 230 men, women, and children.
Seems to be something of an alarmist. We don't know if he actually believed what he was saying and printing, but it certainly seems like it.
There would be consequences for the men and leaders of this U.S. Army unit, and this massacre turned the tide of public opinion to recognize the plight of the Native Americans. Sand Creek National Historic Site, like so many others, reminds us of the painful history associated with the westward expansion of the United States. We next visited the Nicodemus National Historic Site, which commemorates the establishment of several towns in Kansas by former African American slaves. In the mid-1880s, Nicodemus was a bustling and prosperous town, but when a railroad line would later bypass the town, its population dwindled. But the town is still home to several descendants of the original settlers. In 1862, President Abraham Lincoln signed the Homestead Act, which gave away 160-acre plots of land in the Midwest to anyone that could build and maintain a structure and that could produce crops on the land. Within 8 years, over 2 million people, mostly from Europe, accepted the challenge to stake a claim on lands in every state west of the Missouri River. The Homestead National Historic Park celebrates this westward expansion that spanned several decades. Agate Fossil Beds National Monument near Harrison, Nebraska, features fossils found from the Miocene era and consists surprisingly of mostly mammals, not dinosaurs. The fossils include remnants of North American horses, rhinos, camels, and bear dogs. We didn't walk out to the actual fossil site, but we saw plenty of things and learned a lot by just going through the visitor center. When the Latter-day Saint pioneers were forced to leave their homes in Nauvoo, Illinois in February 1846, they set their sights on Utah and the Great Salt Lake. This 1,000-mile journey would require them to travel through Iowa, Nebraska, Wyoming, and finally Utah, much of it along the already established Oregon Trail. The Winter Quarters Visitor Center in Omaha, Nebraska, is filled with displays describing the experience these pioneers went through. Our tour guide, a senior missionary, answered all of our questions, promoted a very spiritual experience for us, and made our visit most memorable. As the pioneers traveling the Oregon Trail plodded along through the plains, there weren't a lot of landmarks to mark their progress. That all changed once they reached Wyoming. Landscape features like Chimney Rock, Dome Rock, Independence Rock, Devil's Gate, and Rattlesnake Pass provided these hardy pioneers with tangible representations of their progress. One of these, Scotts Bluff, has a national monument devoted to recognizing the hundreds of thousands of people that walked the Oregon, California, and Mormon trails. While many of the pioneer wagon train groups that left winter quarters for Salt Lake City arrived relatively unscathed, the Willie and Martin handcart companies that started their journey late in the summer of 1855 had a much more difficult time. Martin's Cove marks the spot where the Martin Handcart Company was stranded in an early winter storm. They sought refuge in a canyon or cove while awaiting supplies and aid from rescuers coming up from Utah, called into service by Brigham Young during a general conference. During our 8-day, 2,400-mile trip, we stayed overnight at a gas station parking lot in Eads, Colorado, a city-owned RV park in Phillipsburg, Kansas, an Army Corps of Engineer-built RV park next to Lake Cunningham in Omaha, Nebraska, another city-owned RV park in Bayard, Nebraska, an LDS church-owned RV park at Martin's Cove, Wyoming, and a commercial RV park in Buena Vista, Colorado. We traveled mostly on state highways rather than interstate freeways and saw lots of wide open, beautiful plains, quaint little towns, and majestic snow-capped mountains. As we close out our travel season, we're sad that we weren't able to do more, but so very much enjoyed what things we did see, what we learned, and the things we felt in all of our journeys.